Ready? I'm ready to be joined on stage by the Honourable Naresh Bhardwaj, Associate Minister for Persons with Disabilities. Please welcome the Minister.
Okay. I could be right here. Oh, yeah. Are you going to ask questions?
Well, I thought we'd sit.
Oh, I thought we could just open it up.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, you can
Okay, Minister.
Whatever. Go for it.
We've already got questions, so if you have questions, go up to the mic and we'll take your questions. We already have a question from the web, and it kind of relates to the work you've been doing going around the province and visiting and talking to people about this initiative and the Innovation Fund and the things you're doing. So the question is from Nick on the web. Thoughts on the rural areas? What is the government doing to help us better meet the vision of employment first, given some of the stumbling blocks we have that the bigger centers don't, such as more limited work placements? And of course, I think you talked about transportation being an issue as well.
Well, thank you very much for that question. We've been touring the rural Alberta. We visited probably 14 different communities already, and we plan to visit many more, because we know the needs of rural is different. Even within the communities, if we go from Stettler to Lacombe to Wetaskiwin to High Level, High River, Fort McMurray, the needs are different. So as we're traveling the province, we're asking people, what are some of the local issues in terms of employing people for disabilities? What are some of the challenges in terms of the transportation? We're asking questions about inclusive post-secondary education. What are some of the service providers, what are some of their challenges? So this is what we're asking, and my intent is take all that information back. In another couple of weeks or 3 weeks, we will complete that tour. We're going to put everything in a mix, and then we will report back to you. This is what we've heard right across the province, because some of the themes are consistent. As an example, transportation. It's quite consistent in many of the rural communities. Housing is another one. You know, I taught in Whitecourt in 1990. We go back there today. Well, the housing needs haven't changed there. So what are we doing? We're working with local communities to make sure that how can we address some of those challenges. We also have got cross-ministry initiatives where some of our ADMs are really, and DMs are sitting down and talking. What do we need to do in terms of agriculture and rural development? That ministry is on the table so we can address some of those local challenges, because challenge will be different in every rural community because they are unique.
Great. You have a question there at the microphone?
Yes, good day. I'm with Disability Services with WJS Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know we touched a lot of different topics with youths and education and all that, but my question is, I know we focus on the education with youths, but we want to know about those who we feel were kind of rushed through the school system because of their disabilities. How about creating programs similar to Big Brothers and Sister programs that focus on youths but focus them on adults, and introducing people with disabilities to our communities with their skills and abilities using hobbies, gaming, internet, and natural smarts to create a higher interest and open minds to a second chance program. Basically for opportunities on their behalf to open away from fears of past experiences through the school system.
Well, thank you very much. That's a very, very good question. You know, one of the things I'm absolutely proud of, and the question is often asked, you know, what is your really best accomplishment so far as an MLA? We do MLA work, constituency work every single day, and one of the things I'm really, really proud of is I was part of a committee. In fact, I was chairing the committee called Setting the Direction for Inclusive Education. So I was very much part of that in bringing inclusive education and in really having it in our Education Act now, and going further than that, making sure that there is money allocated to make sure that we're providing that experience. Because as we start to look at pan-disability right across the province, we're absolutely committed to, first and foremost, every single person in the province of Alberta, first and foremost, they are Albertans. And then, of course, we take a look at a pan-disability from 0 to 99. When we're looking at employment first strategies, and I'll comment on that, it basically means that as kids are growing up, no different than any other child, they all have needs, they all have aspirations, they all have goals. We should be asking them that question. What are your goals as you get older? Because as they get to an age where they're able to go out, start volunteering, they should have that opportunity to do. As they get older, they could get a part-time job, whether they work 1 hour a week, or they work 5 hours a week, or they work 40 hours a week. Those opportunities have to be there. Same goes for further education as an example. Brenda Lee sits on a committee, and we've already met with all 21 our post-secondary institutions. What are we doing to make sure that we're including people with disabilities and providing them those opportunities, not just in big cities. I was in Fort McMurray, satellite colleges. Could we provide those opportunities this day and age? The answer is yes. Thank you for the question.
Question over here.
I really like how this afternoon the focus has gone from the lower functioning high needs to sort of the upper end of the support spectrum, but it leaves me wondering, what is the government's long-term plan to ensure that there is support available for all, regardless of whether you fit in a box that says PDD eligible or not? And also, how, if these people get jobs but are not able to maintain, let's say, a 40-hour work week, how are we going to make sure that whatever income support programs they may be on do not penalize them to go out and work, in the sense that if they go out and become really successful, they end up losing that support of income, but they then, for whatever reason, lose all the other things that have made that successful for them, to the point where they now are essentially back at square one. How are we going to provide a safety net for these people so that if the unfortunate does happen, which probably will for a great many of us, you know, we want to also take steps to make sure that we have strong education and so on, and how are we going to make sure that everyone is included throughout, not selectively based on certain imagined needs?
That's a fantastic question, because one of the things we're doing when we're talking about the outcome-based, anything we're doing today is based on outcomes. It's about everything. The PDD transformation, ladies and gentlemen, means different things for different people. But this is what it means as I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it through the eyes of the parents. It is about my child, their goals, their needs, their aspirations. First and foremost, that's where it begins. As that person starts to get old, it's our job as a government to make sure that we're taking the supports which are needed for that individuals to be successful and wrapping those supports around that individual. And as that person, when we look at employment opportunities for those people, because as I travel the province, there are people who have a barrier of some sort or various abilities. They are business owners. They run their own shops. They work, they want to work. And when you ask them, what do and we know the research indicates and the best practices indicate that employment is one of the ways which improves the quality of life for individuals, because that's what this is all about, improving the quality of life for individuals. It gives them a chance to meet new people, learn new skills, and at the end of the day, every single one of them will tell you they love getting a paycheck on top of all of that. Your second question, what happens that you get a job, you're working number of hours a week now, all of a sudden, if something, something unfortunate happens, would the support system be there to take care of you? The answer is yes. As a government, it is our statutory obligation to make sure that we're looking after Albertans.
Why is AISH and other provincial disability pensions set up to the point where after a certain level they claw back money from you, when those pensions, together with what few hours you may be able to comfortably work as an individual without overburning yourself out or suffering from catastrophic mental illness, etc.
Well,
those
it is
programs have a disincentive currently built into them, where if you're working too many hours, you lose them. But then if, let's say, something unfortunate happens, you can't get back on them. How are you going to fix that problem?
Well, and that is what I was addressing. If you're talking specifically AISH as an example, the AISH exemption right now for one individual is approximately $900, give or take, somewhere in that 900 and something or 800 and something, in that range there, and more if it's two people, right? So anything after that, when the AISH payments are adjusted, as an example. So, but your second question is extremely important. What happens if you're working and something happens? Are you able to get back onto that program? Well, the answer is, and I answered that earlier, it is our statutory obligation to make sure that we're looking after people. Thank you.
We have a question from the web.
Okay.
Question from the web, go ahead.
Yes, Minister. The focus on PDD is encouraging, but there is not the same level of support for people with only physical disabilities. How is this going to improve and when?
The focus is on physical disability. I'm sorry, you didn't get the question.
The focus on PDD is encouraging,
Right.
but there is not the same level of support for people with only physical disabilities. How is this going to improve and when?
Well, as we're going through the transformation and we're looking at different programs, because as we're looking at a lifespan approach of the individual from 0 to 99 as an example, we look at the PDD, we look at FSCD. There are other programs where something called unmet needs as an example, where they don't fit in the PDD, they don't fit in the FASD, they don't fit in any of our programs. We have a program called unmet needs, and of course those people, the needs are going to be met depending on what the requirements are. I don't want to give you a big broad answer. Depending on specific needs of the individual, their individual needs will be met through different government programs. And this is one of the reasons when we're looking at a PAN disability, because it's the needs, we know the needs of the individuals will change as they age. And we want to be able to make sure that we're able to accommodate that change.
Go ahead, right here on our left.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Kathleen McHugh. I'm the Director for Siksika Nation Disability Services. And my comment is regarding the funding discrepancies that we have on reserves versus funding available for persons with disabilities off reserve. There was a report that came out in February that addressed these issues of the needs of persons with disabilities on reserves is exactly the same as those people off reserve, yet the funding is not available for us to run our programs. Siksika is the only First Nation in Canada that actually has an office that provides service to people with disabilities. And we are the fastest growing population in the country. And we have a very high percentage of children with special needs. There is a program in the schools that addresses the needs for young children with disabilities. So when it begins through elementary school, high school, junior and senior high, there is very limited resources that are available. And the problem that we have is once the student finishes the program in the high school, they go back to the community and there's absolutely nothing. We have tried to create employment. We work with our local departments to create employment for people with disabilities. And again, it always goes back to funding. So I'm interested in the travel that you're doing throughout the province, and I'm inviting you to come to Siksika so we can meet and you can hear from our people and we can show you the work that we've done. And we do have a plan, because our children, our people with disabilities, their needs are exactly the same as anyone else's.
You're absolutely right on. Absolutely right. You know, you couldn't have said it better. You're absolutely right. That's one of the reasons I made that statement. First and foremost, every single person who lives in the province of Alberta, first and foremost, they're Albertans. What's been happening is for over the years, the services on the reserves are provided either by the reserves themselves or by the federal government. We are changing that. I've got a letter, I've got a memo sitting on my desk right now. We're starting to partner with some of the First Nations that going out there and providing the services. We're going to do a pilot project, which is in works right now, that we need to change this. And I commit to you that we are working on changing that. We have a memo already. My predecessor, Frank Oberle, is Minister of Aboriginal Relations right now. He is absolutely committed. I am absolutely committed to making sure that first and foremost we look after our people. And whether they are on reserves or off the reserve. Soon as they come off the reserves, we look after them anyways. So what's the difference? Us going on there and looking after them. There are jurisdictional challenges. We're going to overcome those jurisdictional challenges. I was in high level talking to the people and the elders. We need to change the culture. We need to become acquainted with the local cultures so we can make that happen. Government alone, I can tell you, especially because it's a culture. We need to change that culture. We need to be comfortable making sure that our staff have the cultural competencies to go on First Nations, and dealing with First Nations, because it is different. So we need partnerships, as you're alluding to, and I take you up on your offer. We come out and meet with you because you're absolutely right on. We need to do that. We're working on that, and we will be doing just that.
I'd just like to have a recommendation. As you're doing this work, I'd like to ask you to steer away from the paternalistic attitude of creating work or creating programs that are good for us. My recommendation is that we want to be a part of that change. We want to be included in the changes because we know what our needs are at home, and we have valuable contribution that we can provide to you.
Absolutely, and you're bang on. That's why I want to come and visit you. That's why I was in high level in Lacombe, because the needs are different. Who understands your needs in your community better than you? It's all the more reasons for us to talk to you and making sure that what we do is what you need. That's what's going to work there, because what we do in Edmonton, it may not work in Siska.
We've done our presentations all the way to the UN. We've provided valuable information, but we always come to a block, a barrier, pardon the pun, but we do have that problem that we have when we're trying to work with the different levels of government. So I'm glad to hear that you are working towards this, and we'll speak to you again.
And further to that, on our employment, public sector advisory council, we do have a representation from the First Nations. We are dealing government to government. There are certain protocols. I can't just come and visit. There are certain protocols we need to follow. We're absolutely making sure that we're following the protocols, making sure that we're meeting the right people, making sure we're talking to the elders, making sure that all of which are norms on that particular area or the reserve or the First Nations, we are very sensitive to that, and we absolutely have to be. Thank you.
It's good timing on that. It's the year of reconciliation in Edmonton, declared by our mayor after the Reconciliation Commission was just through here a couple months ago. So. All right, we've got a question over here.
Thank you. As a high school teacher, at the high school level, we are certainly seeing many of the same challenges that have been shared today from the post-secondary sector. Mm-hmm. And we see that there is a need for access to supports in order to help us to prepare our students with disabilities to enter into the workforce. That's a significant component of the high school programming for kids in this province. And we also identify that we want to know where and how these supports can be accessed for us at the grade 10, 11, 12 level to be supporting the social policy framework in our province that's been talked about today. So as educators, we're always looking to be a part of the solution, and we'd like to know where our voice can be in the conversation, as we're very significantly impacted in supporting students with disabilities in their entry right from high school.
You know, that's a really, really good question, and I'm a high school teacher. In fact, for many, many years, I did the work experience coordinator and a registered apprenticeship coordinator. When we first started the RAP program, Registered Apprenticeship Program, back in 1990-ish or so, there was a fear Who is going to hire a 16-year-old kid in an industrial situation? What if that person got hurt? Who's going to be responsible for that? We had to knock on one door at a time to create that awareness. Going back to the high school, teaching, and I'm a vocational teacher, I taught for many, many years, I taught automotives. We've got people who have various abilities in our classrooms. How can we create that awareness? So this innovation fund, which we just announced, because you talked to my ADM, ever since I took charge, I asked, what number do you dial if you want to look for people with disabilities? Who do you dial? Do we know? 173 service providers across the province, ladies and gentlemen, are doing a fantastic job individually. Collective wisdom of probably 1,500 or more years in this room alone. How can we harness that? How can we develop a prototype which could be used here and right across the province? And where do we go? What opportunities can we provide? This is what this Innovation Fund announcement is all about. And as you develop, as you start talking to more and more employers, as we start to come to talk to you as a government, you're going to know how to get them involved. Because when we're talking about lifespan, what is employment first? Is it really a program? Well, it's not. It's a philosophy. It's a way of thinking. It's people getting involved as they're young, as they're going through various stages of their lives. We need to work with them. We need to inspire them as they get to a junior high level or a high school level. Well, it's the expectation. It's automatic that they're going to be contributing members of the community, and that's exactly what I can tell you. Thank you very much for your question.
Sir, you have a question?
Two questions.
Yes.
One is, what's to stop, once a disability person gets a job, who determines how much per hour or per month or whatever?
Can I answer that question right now? Can I answer that question right now?
Sure.
Equal pay for equal job. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a charity, nor would it ever work as a charity. This is someone's bottom line. If you're contributing to someone's bottom line, you're making a difference, you must be paid the same. There's a section in the Act, in the Employment Standard Act, it's Section 67, which specifically talks about you can pay less than minimum wage to a person with disability. And I showed up at when they were consulting in Edmonton, and they had no idea why I was there. I was there to say, get rid of that section. It hasn't been used for over a decade. People don't want to use it. So why is it in there? Get rid of it. You talk to any employer across the province, no one is even looking for any money from the government to make that happen. So to answer your question, equal pay for equal work.
Thank you. And the next question is, the speaker from Ontario, how do you feel about employers being fined for not hiring disability people?
You know, it's about changing attitudes of people. And this is one of the fears. If you hire someone with disabilities, are you going to be able to drag in front of human rights tribunals? These are some of the things we need to work on. I asked the employer, what are some of the barriers of employment? That should not be a barrier. It's an attitude which we need to change. It's a culture which we need to change. We should not have to legislate that you must hire this, 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 and this. You can't tell businesses that who you hire, who you not hire. Business, you'd seen a presentation from Tim Hortons. There is a subway, all the way from Whitecourt all the way to high level. They're doing a phenomenal work. You know, are we telling them what to pay, what to hire, who to hire? The answer is no. It is up to all of us, not just me as a government, not us as a government. This message is coming from Dave Hancock, our Premier. This message is coming from Thomas Lukaszuk, who Minister of Job, Skills and Trades. It's coming from every single one of my colleagues, whether they're ministers or they're MLAs. This is what we're doing. And this is the attitude which we collectively, ladies and gentlemen, as a society need to change. Is it changing? The answer is absolutely yes. Because yesterday at the job fair, we had many employers. One was looking for 9 people. Say, hey, Give me the names of people. We want to connect them with the, and once it gets going today, I look at the RAP program. Today I look at the RAP program. Is there a problem hiring someone, a RAP student? Absolutely not. But equally critical, ladies and gentlemen, is finding the right match, making sure that we do our due diligence, that we don't set up people for failures. The lady this morning also said that all you have, sometimes you just throw the numbers out. We need to get 10 people out to the door. Well, you're setting people up for a failure. If you're not matching them properly with what skill sets they have to the needs of the employer, should the jobs be created for people? The answer is no. They're filling an existing position. Sometimes they may take 2, may take 3, but that's okay. More and more employers are willing to do that because once they're with you for a long, long period of time.
Got a question over here?
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to understand what the government of the province of Alberta, I'm trying to get some basically perspective on the outlook, because I understand, and I think it's great, the outcomes-based, employment-first focus through Alberta Human Services, and as we've elaborated a great deal, a big chunk of helping people get into that career path is inclusive post-secondary programming that's funded through Alberta Human Services. And it's very much oriented towards let's get employment to happen. And I'm curious that at the same time that seems to be undermined, and this is a cross-ministerial question to some extent, but it seems to be undermined by the province's overall decisions in the past 2 years to basically gut post-secondary education sort of holistically. So I'm just trying to if what we're trying to do is really be employment first for all Albertans, that seems to be, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I'll add that in the last leadership race, which in this province is the election, the specific running platform was that won't be cut. And then sure enough, it was rather drastically. So I'm just trying to understand where the province stands vis-a-vis education.
Well, in terms of the education, people must have the opportunity for inclusive post-secondary education. When we're talking about employment for specifically employment for every single Albertan, well, it is a philosophy. Do we want to set up expectations as people are going through various stages of their lives? The answer is absolutely yes. Should they have the opportunity to be in inclusive education? I did the consulting for inclusive education piece. The definition of inclusive is different. It was different right across the province. You talk to people who don't have children, perhaps of any kind of a barrier or a disability, it is different. My son was wearing hearing aids. I know what FM system is. I knew what's it like to be in a classroom, perhaps a surround sound. Teacher is wearing a microphone. It's absolutely critical those opportunities are there. You talk about post-secondary education, we've already met in the last 3-4 months every single post-secondary institution right across the province and actually holding them accountable that we're providing them some funding, where is it and how is it being used and what are we going to do to make sure that our people are included in that.
But I think inclusivity is crucial. Obviously, I'm here. But if we're going to pump money so that we can place people in universities and have them succeed, but at the same time, the overall performing power of departments and faculties is dropped by massive cuts. I just don't see how we're actually, advancing an employment-first agenda. You're
asking two different questions because when you're looking at the faculties and you're looking at the actual money which we're allocating to faculty of post-secondary institutions, that is totally different. The money which is targeted, allocated for inclusive post-secondary education, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Minister. Thanks very much for taking all those questions. Really appreciate it. And thanks very much. I think we're done. We're done with the questions. Yeah. Don't have anybody lined up.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity and some of those challenging questions. Go ahead.
Thank you, Minister. Thanks. Good job.